Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us today for our webinar where we are here to discuss with you the looking into the crystal ball and what's going to be coming for group exercise instructors going forward, including sector changes, the support EMD UK can offer you, and how we can champion instructors for the professional recognition. It's my great pleasure to introduce who's going to be running this webinar today. I'm just here as the co-host, is Gill Cummings-Bell, who's our interim CEO at EMD UK, and you can probably see Gill on the screen already. Gill, would you like to do a brief intro? I know you're going to do an intro in your presentation.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Gill Cummings-Bell, and as Sue quite rightly said, I'm the interim CEO for EMD UK, and I'll explain momentarily much more about the whys of that.
Brilliant. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sue Wilkie. I am now Head of Workforce for EMD UK as well. So, Gill, we wanted to do this today because we've been hiding away in the background a little bit, doing lots of work at EMD UK since you've joined, and for me a lot of positive changes for the company, but I thought it'd be really good with all the positive changes that we're doing that we brought it to the workforce and showed them what we've been doing. So what I'm going to do today is just literally hand it over to you to do the presentation and take us through all the great work we've been doing under your leadership.
Great, lovely. Thank you so much, Sue. And thank you, everybody, for giving up some time today and attending the webinar. And I know there's lots of people who will view it on catch up. I know how precious your time is, especially as a Group X teacher, running around different clubs and teaching all of your classes. So I thought I'd take this opportunity, firstly, to introduce myself. I am the current interim CEO of EMD UK. And what does that mean? I'm actually a board member, so I will be continuing my work with EMD UK, regardless of the fact that I'm currently holding the interim CEO position. But I just wanted to let you know that, just in case you see the job advert going out next month and wonder what I've done to remove myself from the post. But I'm just holding it. But that's been a great opportunity for me because I feel a little bit like I was given a golden gift. An amazing team to work with and lots of things happening in that team that just allowed me to put my group exercise teacher hat on and say, how can we make this best work for you? So just to introduce myself to those of you I don't know, and those of you, and I can see many of you on the participant list will know me from many, many years, and hopefully the picture on the right you will recognise from my very early days. I am a group exercise teacher, and I still am a group exercise teacher. I still teach every week, and it's a passion that I've always held for our sector. I'm also a leading educator in the sector, so I've worked alongside many of you in your qualifications as consultants across some of the organisations that I can see some of you have come along from. I've also put a little bit of jar of Marmite here because I know throughout this presentation I'm going to say some things that might land well with some of you and might not land well with some of you. Those of you that have got questions around what I'm going to introduce and say, please do share them, because we are here to have that conversation and discussion. Firstly, for those of you that don't know much about EMD UK, who are we? And that's an interesting question because I've worked in the sector a long time, and there are two camps. There's many group exercise teachers who don't really know who EMD UK are or what EMD UK can do for them. So EMD UK are a system partner of Sport England, and we're funded by Sport England as a governing body for the group exercise workforce and the group exercise sector. So what does that mean exactly? We have two goals within that. We have a systemic goal, which is to collaborate with you as teachers, to coordinate with you as teachers across the sector, and to focus in on the instructor workforce. We also have a governing role, which is to provide innovation and support for the group exercise teacher. So although we use the word governance, I don't want you to think of governance as a stick. I want you to think of governance as something we do on your behalf. It's not about governing you. It's about making sure that things that land in our sector work for you. So it's not you as individuals that we're trying to govern in any shape or form. And I want to be very clear on where that word governance sits. It's about us making sure that things that are applied to our sector, things that land in our sector, things that influence us as teachers are appropriate and in the right place at the right time and at the right level. Now, with that in mind, I want to share with you the fact that we are a funded organisation. So we have a 5-year funding agreement with Sport England to be funded to do that work for you. So I want you to just think about that, because that funding comes from two areas. It comes from exchequer funding, but also from lottery funding. But that funding is drawn down on your behalf. So that funding needs to work for you. Us as an organisation need to be able to stand in a room with any of you at any time and feel very proud that we've spent that money wisely on behalf of the group exercise sector. And it's why we're starting to have these deeper conversations, because I'm not sure that many of you are aware that we are a funded organisation and that we work on your behalf. We have a great team of 26 posts when they're all full, but 22 at the moment, of amazing people in different fields and different skill sets, some of which I'm going to introduce to you today, who are doing active work for you behind the scenes. Now, what we're doing much more openly, and the purpose of this presentation, is to do more of that work with you at the front scene and not behind the scenes. With that in mind, we want to take a little look over the horizon, and almost like we have a crystal ball. What's coming in the sector? Where are the big changes going to hit? What's coming soon? I know that we've had enormous changes since COVID. You know, we struggled with various things before COVID. COVID was a very different period for all of us. And in lots of ways, the sector's changed since COVID and presented us with new challenges. And it's with some of those challenges in mind that we've made some changes internally at EMD UK so that we can work more effectively for you as the group exercise workforce, so that we can help support you through some of the changes that may come in the future. Effectively, we have your back. What's coming for the future? What do we already know? We do know that there are increased demands on group exercise teachers. We do know that to make a living and work with the cost of living crisis, that teachers are having to teach more classes, having to work within a sector more variedly. I've spoken to teachers who do as many as 48 classes a week, down to 1 class a week. But we know that there are increased demands around you working within those classes: PPL licensing, insurance, membership of organisations, transport and travel costs, lots of things that hit you quite hard as a group exercise teacher. We also know that you have limited resources on many occasions to meet some of those demands. We know that the cost of living is rising, and we know that we have quite an unstable income. We found that particularly through COVID. We know a lot of people left the sector through COVID to find a more stable income, and we know that that's been a struggle for people to come back. To know that lots of you who are teaching feel that you've got to work elsewhere as well in order to supplement your income. So there are a number of things that we're doing to help that as well. There are new professional standards coming across different disciplines of our sector. Now, that's not new. We've always had new professional standards. Prior to them being called professional standards, they were called occupational standards. We've had 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years where standards of our qualifications, what we're supposed to have to work, has all changed. Now, I want to change a little bit the scenario on that. I want to make sure that as we develop as a workforce, that we're involved in those changes. So when things like qualifications are looked at, what must I have to work, all of those things, I want you to be involved in that communication process and telling us how that lands for you. There's also a coaching governance project which is being undertaken at the moment across all sport and physical activity, of which EMD UK are part of. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the governance project very shortly. It is a project, and we have many questions about it and not many answers at this point in time, and who knows where it's going to land. But the thing about the project is that we want to make sure that we communicate with you, we consult with you, and that if there are extra demands placed on us, that we're able to meet those in a way that is effective for us as a sector, and also in a way that doesn't scare the living daylights out of us and cost us a load of money. I mean, I'm sure for some of you, you've been there 2 or 3 times in your history of teaching where things have changed and suddenly you're asked to do something differently, and suddenly you realise actually this is going to be either a barrier to you working or you've got to go and get something else. And we just want to change that story. We just want to make sure that you're supported through that. Now, what have we put in place in order to help you? We have an amazing new resource centre. I'm just going to change out of the PowerPoint screen and come into showing you the resource centre. So this is our resource centre. We've developed a whole range of resources for you, which are free of charge within your membership. Now, we have different levels of membership, which I will come to, because we've also got some changes there. But what we've done is we've listened to what group exercise teachers say about joining an organisation. What do you get for joining? So we are open to filling this resource centre with resources that help you do your job better. We want to fill it with resources that help employers help their teachers more. We want to fill it with resources that help businesses within our sector reach the audience they want to reach. We want to put resources in there that help training providers have contact with teachers and transfer their information to support the sector. We want to work this resource centre with the sector as a whole. So this is just a little whistle-stop tour of it. We can see there's business resources. We're often asked by you guys how to do marketing, how to get your Facebook page up and running, how to get your Instagram page up and running. So we've put a whole series of resources in the business centre to help you do that. We've also got, for our membership level, our pro level, interactive tasks to actually do it with you whilst you get your businesses all set up. We've got online learning and revision guides such as anatomy. We've got resources coming on instructor wellbeing. One of our new resources that will be coming soon over autumn will be something on voice projection, how to protect your voice and keep yourself safe. Lots of things that we're adding all the time. We've got other parts of the resource centre that are going to be built around class content. It's very new. We've got limited resources in there at the moment, but it's going to build over the next year to have lots of class content resources. Now, what I mean by that is, you know what it's like when you want to teach and you want to jump on YouTube, you want to find something. We're going to create a centre for you here with our delivery partners with ideas of how to get your classes really up and running. Lots of things in there. We're going to have a series of podcasts and more webinars coming online. We also want to build different parts of this resource centre around what you need. We're looking for delivery partners. We're looking for your voice within the resource centre. So it's a great move forward. Now, I want to tell you the most exciting thing is to join EMD UK is currently free on one of our levels. Now, the free level will always be free. We're not going to change it. So don't think if I join on a free level to get these resources, I'm going to find they want my credit card details and in 6 months' time they're going to charge me, because that's just not going to happen. The free is always going to remain free. And why? Well, we recognise that we might not be the professional organisation for some of you that's most suitable for you to join. You might be also a member of the Wheel of Yoga or the Yoga Alliance or SimSpa or FitPro or other organisations where you choose to place your investment in your membership that's most effective for you. But we don't want you to miss out on being part of what we can support you with as your governing body. So the free membership is there for everybody. You can also invite participants in your class to join if you wanted to. It's about engagement. So if you've got participants who are keen and think they might become instructors, then invite them to join that free level. You can just have a look at those resources. We also have more resources coming in to help us meet some of the challenges. So I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint. So that's our new resource centre, of which we're really excited. And as I said, we want delivery partners. So we don't want it to be just about EMD. We want those of you who in the sector have something to say and think you can give something of value to the resource centre for instructors. Then we have a team at EMD UK who are going to be looking after that. We have a new content manager coming on board, and they will start fairly soon. And along with Sue Wilkie, who is our workforce development and governance lead now, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, you'll be able to get in touch with Sue and really talk about how we can support you and how we can bring delivery partners on board. We've also been doing various pieces of research on your behalf, in some instances for years. So we started some research way back in 2018 on instructor pay. Now, we all know it's a controversial subject, and there's been elements of when we've done that research on thinking, well, how do we approach it? Well, you'll be pleased to know we've actually landed a pay paper. So I'm just going to introduce you to some of that information, just to show you how we can tackle topics on your behalf, to give you the confidence and support that we will tackle topics on your behalf. So I'm going to flick screen again. This is a pay paper that now sits on our website. The research that sits behind it is 5 years in the making. What we have done is landed on some pay guidance. Now, I don't want you to try to read it in this session. There's only one legislated pay in the whole of the UK, and that's minimum wage. There are lots of sectors that recommend pay bands. So we've come to a point in our research where we feel able to make some recommendations for those who are seeking recommendations. So they are only recommendations. There's no legislated pay in this country at all. So our sector will not be able to be any different to any other sector in legislating that. There will be people who find the pay guidance useful, and there will be people who find the pay guidance not useful. There will be people who pay above these pay bands, and there will be people who pay less than these pay bands. And we've got lots of information in there about how you can help support instructors financially. What we have got in there, which might be an interesting read for you, is what you actually paying for. And when you realise the breakdown of what instructors get paid, we're just on minimum wage if we're lucky. I just want you to have a read of it. It's on the website. Sue can share a link with you, or you can just jump on there. It'll be under the blog section and you can just go in. Now, there is a link within it where you can make some comments on it, because in a couple of weeks' time, after the consultation period on the pay bands, we will then land this piece of paper and say, right, here is the guidance. We've consulted on it for 5 years. We've researched it well. We've put the pay bands out there. We've consulted on it further. We make any adjustments based on comments. And then every year we will republish this paper. We'll republish it with any considerations that are going on this year with cost of living and all sorts of things. So this will be a paper that if you are in negotiations with your employer, you'll be able to sit there and say, well, this is what the governing body recommend. If you're an employer looking for guidance, this will be a paper that you can meet with your instructors and say, well, how can we help you with this, and where should you sit within these pay bands? In the research, there was lots of things that people wanted to add to the pay bands, like somebody who did more CPD, somebody who had more class numbers. All of those things start to become unmandated. So we've kept it very simple. There's opportunities for employers to pay differently to different teachers with all of those ideas in mind. But in terms of the pay band, it is pretty much based on qualifications and time served as a minimum start point. And remember, these are start points. There will be many occasions where people are paid above the pay band for various reasons, or below the pay band. There's also lots of ideas further down the paper of where employers can contribute to lessening the financial burden on instructors. So I just wanted to share with you how we're landing some of the topics that have been quite a long time in coming. We're also doing some work on bursary support and different funding pockets that we have. So for those of you that want to join us on the pro membership level, and you want that professional recognition, but you economically are struggling to bring this into your budget, you can have conversations and see where we can give you bursary support to join us. So we're going to use some of the money to actually allow your membership to be paid for and things like that within the organisation. You can also then be in a good place, because as different funding is released and different programmes are released, you can be part of the conversation. Now, a big piece of work we're about to start is widening the scope of practice. For those of you that have been in the sector a long time, you're probably aware that the scope of practice for membership at the moment of professional associations is quite narrow. When we talk about the coaching governance project, qualifications come into that. Now, governance isn't something new for us. I'm sure some of you work for employers where you have to have particular things in place in order for you to work. So it's not new. It's about what might change in that. So I know that the word governance itself might put the fear of God into people and think we don't need governing and all of that, but that's not what it's about, because in effect, for a lot of employers, there is an element of governance already there. When I say widening the scope of practice, I look at the qualifications at the moment. There's only one group exercise qualification recognised by professional associations as being the qualification that you must hold within your scope of practice. And we have lots of scenarios where people work for an employer and they're teaching indoor cycling and they have a British Triathlon coaching qualification. And they're very much able to teach cycling and they are members of their professional association. We have similar scenarios in yoga. We have yoga teachers who might be members of the Yoga Alliance or the Wheel of Yoga, but they have to have a particular qualification for certain employers that sit on the register of qualifications at the fitness end. So when we say widening the scope of practice, we want to change that. We don't want scenarios of a yoga teacher has to get a particular qualification when there are many varied qualifications that could be recognised. Same for Pilates teachers, same for group exercise teachers. When I look at group exercise, there are so many different classes on the timetable, like indoor cycling, that it seems a little bit madness that somebody who's qualified to teach cycling has to go back and get a gym instructor in order to teach indoor cycling in a club. So our work on the widening of scope of practice is a new project being headed up by myself and Sue Wilkie and the whole senior management team at EMD, on which we'll be consulting on you quite a lot. What we want to do is enable the scope of practice and not disable it. So we want to make sure that when we talk about scope of practice, that we're talking about what have you been trained to do and can evidence in your training, and what are you teaching? And if those two match, you're within scope of practice. So that whole project, we really want you on board to have a look at. We've got new membership levels coming on board, and I'm just going to flip back and show you some of those. 3 membership levels now. For those of you who joined us previously, we always had the EMD UK Pro Insured membership. The 2 new ones are the free membership, which is about engagement and anybody can join, but also a professionally recognised membership, which we call the Pro membership, which is half the price of our normal membership and doesn't involve you being insured. So if you don't require insurance, you can still join for professional recognition on this new Middle Strand membership. And it's this new Middle Strand membership that we also have a bursary to meet. Now, what that middle band membership is going to do is going to recognise that scope of practice. So as we widen the scope of practice, those of you with varied certificates will be able to come through this membership level for professional recognition within the certificates that you hold and that we can professionally recognise. Where we need to support you with changes as various projects land, we will put resources into this level of membership that you get supported with without additional cost. So if you're a pro membership and somewhere down the line we decide that safeguarding is also something that everybody should hold, we will enable safeguarding in this pro membership as part of the membership cost where we can. So whilst we don't have the answers to those questions yet, we do know at this point in time, the things that we will be putting in here are extra business resources, extra resources around wellness, extra resources around safeguarding, and all of the things that you need to enhance your employability out in the workplace. We have new staff roles. Your title, you might just want to jump in and give me your proper formal title.
My new job title is Head of Workforce Partnerships and Governance.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Sue. So we're very excited about Sue's new role because we've had conversations with lots of operators, employers, lots of teachers, where we want to create these opportunities for you, but you might not be fully aware of them. So Sue is going to be available for all of you to arrange meetings, to arrange conversations, to come out to workplaces, talk to teams. She's also involved with the item beneath that, which is the Voice of Group Exercise. Now, within Sue's remit, Sue has some funding to set up national meetings where you as teachers can join those national meetings and consult on specific questions as they develop. So Sue, would you just like to talk through your first 2 meetings that you've set?
Yes, I've got my notes beside me actually, just so I don't forget the dates as well. I can also announce the first dates of them. So we're going to have 6 meetings throughout the year. The first ones we're going to have is the 12th of September, and more details will come out over the next couple of weeks, so you can sign up if you want to be part of the voice of Group X. And the first one's going to be about the value of Group X, how we as your governing body can help support you. And then the second one, which will be on the 2nd of November, it will be about discussing the scope of practice. So I'll get Gill on the call as well, and we'll be able to sit down and hear it from your voices and have your input on the scope of practice.
Excellent. Thanks, Sue. Very excited that we were able to go out to the workforce and have these projects develop with your workforce voice. Also, Sue has funding to arrange some meetings with Group X coordinators, because we appreciate that Group X coordinators coordinate teams of you, and they will have such an invaluable input as to how we should shape your future. So these meetings are about you having a voice in shaping the future of the workforce and shaping the future of group exercise. We won't make any decisions on our own. We want to go out, have this, come back, but we will make decisions that support and protect you, as we've shown with the pay paper. We also have another chap who's not on this call, Ajay, who is the head of ED&I. Now, Ajay is going to play a key role as well in developing some areas for you as group exercise teachers. Ajay is going to work on developing how we help you become more inclusive in classes, and therefore build your class communities to include lots of new members to your classes that you're currently finding hard to reach. So Ajay is going to work on this inclusiveness project with you as teachers, and there's going to be lots happening in that space through the This Girl Can programme, through an EMD UK programme, through lots of programs that Ajay is working with, through funding projects like the Together Fund, lots of different projects. Ajay is going to be in contact and coming out to see lots of people on how we can work on that inclusiveness with you. Lots and lots of things happening. We've also decided to be more prominent at events. So we've got 6 events planned this year, 3 big ones and 3 small ones. So if you'd like us at an event and you'd like us to do something, please do get in touch with myself or Sue. However, the 3 that we currently have in terms of our big ones, one was Elevate, which we went to for the first time. The second one is an online one that we're going to hold ourselves in November. So watch this space. We're going to be holding an event with various sessions that you can attend online. And then we're going to finish our year by being at IFS. And at IFS, we're very excited because we're going to make it hybrid. So we're coming into IFS with a different theme. We're also going to support lots of new businesses at IFS and also support lots of new presenters. We're very much aware that we need career pathways in group exercise. And we're very much aware that sometimes if you want to be a presenter, you can't work your way up that ladder to becoming one or have an opportunity to be one. So we're going to be running a presenter school alongside the events, culminating in you having slots at our events to present. As I said, we want to support new businesses. We want to support inclusiveness. We've got such a desire to support the whole sector that these events are going to be one of the crucial places that we're seen to do that. So we're very, very excited about that. Now, I know the Coaching Governance Project is something that we've been talking about quite a lot, and something that actually one of you as group exercise teacher made me aware at the weekend how scary the words were. And I don't want you to be put off by those words, because as I've said to you, we have some element of governance in our sector already. We all have to achieve certain things. And we all know that as group exercise teachers, we're excellent at achieving them. You know, we thrive on the standards. The governance is about recognition of where we are, and nothing will land that's a stick that governs in the old sense, if that makes sense. The project is a 2 to 3 year project across all governing bodies. Now, on our website, there is also an article in the blogs about the project, but it's a little bit of a scarier article because it's quite formal and it's got facts in it. But we're in phase 3 of the project. Now, it was a dilemma for us as to whether to talk about the project or not. But we're actually in phase 3. So the project's been going on about 18 months and nobody's really mentioned it. But we are funded as part of that project to act on your behalf within the project. We've been funded with a new post to act within that project. We've been funded with other funds to make sure that that project involves group exercise teachers. The project comes from some major groups across UK Coaching, Sport England, SIMSPA, who are all researching and piloting how we keep our sector recognised and how we keep the sector safe. Now, if you read the full article, and I'm not going to go through everything in it, you can see where it comes from, the ethos behind it, and what the work's going to involve. Now, we don't know what it will look like. We don't know how it will land. We don't know how group exercise teachers will be influenced by it. When the coaching operating system, which is what it discusses, we just want to make sure that it isn't onerous, it isn't bureaucratic, it doesn't place a burden on group exercise teachers. So all words that the sheer word governance brings to the forefront in everybody's mind. But I want to make sure, and we want to make sure at EMD UK, that's the royal we, that we're involved in this project from the word go. We want to change the historical perspective of something landing that we have to meet and comply with, that we've not really been aware of and not really resourced to do. So this isn't about new things. This might turn out to be exactly what we already currently have. But we just want to make sure that your voice is heard within it and that the funding that we have and our remit within it with Sport England works that project on your behalf so that in 2 to 3 years' time, as it manifests itself, that it's in a good place. So just to give you a little bit more on the project recognises that instructing or coaching is getting hard. And as instructors, we are coaches. And this project goes across all 57 governing bodies of sport and physical activity. So it includes every governing body, from swimming through to England cricket, through to the FA, through to British triathlon, through to British canoeing, all of them. So we're all involved in the project. The project is looking at this phase of phase 3, which is workforce governance and workforce registration and workforce regulation. Now, we already know to a point that registration has been tried in our sector many times. I personally know of 4 registers. I think we're on the 4th time round of registering through various organisations. It's not that we're not used to registering, but it's really what should that look like if it lands. So with that in mind, we have more questions than answers. I'm not going to say it will be this, it will be that, because we don't know yet. The pilot is being run across the organisations. And this is a useful chart that you will see in the article as well on the website. SIMSPA are leading on the project across all governing bodies. So not just us in the physical activity sector, but also across all the other sports. They're leading with UK sport and UK coaching, and they are piloting work across the governing bodies to see where good practice sits and to see if this lands, should there be a national one. And I want to give you an example of another sector. If you look at the health sector, there's registrations within the health sector. And as I said, we have registration. We just don't know what it should look like yet. And it might land similarly to what we already have. It might change. We just need to be on board to know what that is. Our job is up here at the application level. Whatever lands, professional recognition will come through your governing body to anything that develops. What is group exercise and how do we best support the teachers to make sure that what we don't go back to is this, where the demands are greater than the resource. So it is a work in progress, reviewing 5 areas: registration, recognition, representation, regulation, and risk management to people. Now, we, as I said, are a sector that has a lot of this in place. Some of the other governing bodies don't have any of it in place, which is why the work is taking place. Many of the governing bodies have it all in place. So there is such a variation. I don't want you to be put off by that. Nobody is trying to over-regulate you, insist that you do this, that, or the other. This is a conversation, it's a project. And as the project develops, it's really important that you have your say and that your professional recognition develops as this project develops. So as we widen the scope of practice, your professional recognition will develop in a way that is suitable for you as a teacher. I want to enable it and not disable it. We don't want to end up with some narrow certification and things that we just can't meet. I'll be fully honest, as a group exercise teacher of 45 years, I can't currently sign up on the professional association as a group exercise teacher, which is a ridiculous scenario for me. I'm one of the leaders who teaches group exercise, but I don't meet the criteria to sign up. And it's that story we want to change. So my message really is join us on one of the levels. Join us as a pro and work with us on the professional recognition, or just join us for engagement where you'll be supported with the resources and be included in the conversation, where we can reach out to members and say, this is happening, how do you feel about it? What do you want to say about it? So I think on that note, enough from me, and over to questions.
So let's start at the very beginning. I think some of them have gone already, actually. Any guidance on how to petition for an increase in the hourly rate for group PT classes would be greatly appreciated. It's been the same in my area for at least 7 years. Well, I think you kind of covered that within what you've shown with your the pay consultation that we've gone out with at the moment. I don't think, for me personally, I don't think, is there any action for any instructors to do right now? Let's see how that lands would be my answer.
Yeah, mine also, Sue, and also instructors to click on the consultation and give your view. But I do want you to, when you make that, to try and make your view really constructive, because we've responded to the request of the fact that there is no guidance on pay. And as I said, a great thought process is, should there be guidance on pay? Should there not be guidance on pay? I do want you to feed back on it. We're not going to be out there for long with it because we want to land with it. We do want to make sure that every year it's revisited, that cost of living is inputted to it, any additional costs that are experienced by instructors are also considered within it. Just have a look at it and see what you think, and feedback.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got another question coming in here from Gill. Gill said, will you be including any chair-based movement dance activity groups? And I'm, yes, we've already included it in some of the courses that we've been devising in the last couple of weeks. But yes, the content buckets we'll be doing on that resource area cover a much wider genre of Group X than we have done before. Before it was very much Group X and dance, whereas now we're looking at aquatic-based, outdoor fitness, chair-based, Pilates, yoga, everything. We want to be able to, we're basically trying to provide you all with a home where content can be found for all different genres. So if you've got any other ideas, again, contact either Gill or I, and we'll pop them in, because it's your resource area, right? We want your input.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I don't know whether some of you are aware, but our founders are the KFA and MEDAW, and they have a full-on chair-based programme. So there will be an area from our founders as well with some of that work in. So
unfortunately, this person didn't leave a name, but probably the question why. I've been told by another personal trainer that there's no need to have a governing body. This did make me laugh, as I thought this was a thing anyway. My question is, how long has this been running, and why does he think he doesn't need to sign up for it?
So we're not a governing body where everybody has to join us. It's about what's most effective for you. Now, the word governing body means that we have a responsibility. So that responsibility is to make sure that we work best for you and support you, and also that we influence things like I've spoken about in the presentation. So if you don't feel the need to join that, that's your privilege. But if you want to influence the change, be part of the change, and be in the framework where we know, and I look at lots of the chat, and I'm with all of that chat, because as I said to you, I'm a group exercise teacher. I know how hard it is out there. I know how we've been treated. I know how undervalued we are in many places. Don't get me wrong, there is good practice where we're super valued, but there is much practice that's not. I do know that over the years of qualifications, having been an education deliverer, that there are courses that can qualify you in one day and courses that qualify you with some good experience. we have to be realistic about that now. And when you join, particularly for things like recognition, the reason for not joining would be if you feel that you don't meet it. For me, if you meet it and you want your good practice recognised, then I think you should join, because what you'll get is professional recognition for meeting the standards. But there will always be people who want to go over the wall and do the best they can, and there'll always be people who want to go around the wall. Now, they're hoping for good regulation through self-regulation. Now, we have an element of that, and we have an element, and don't get me wrong, where I know that some of you work for employers where you have to join anyway. Now, I want to give you a scenario of you working in an NHS hospital. Now, you're working in an NHS hospital, and you've got lots of different staff. So if you're in a club or an employer, just think about this. And you want your physiotherapist to join the same association as your consultants and the same association as your legal executive who works upstairs. They've all got their own associations that feel best fit for them, who provide the right resource. So EMD UK are the governing body for group exercise. We're funded to be so. It's your money. It's not our money. It's your money. So for me, the professional recognition that you'll get through EMD UK is vital for a group exercise teacher to hold their place. So, but it's still choice.
It is. Yeah.
Just decide what works for you.
Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is from Claire, which I think you again could have probably answered by signing up things, but Claire's going, how about setting up a union? I think this was at the very beginning. This came in at 1:10 about whether we set up a union or not. Gill?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and one that's been bandied around a lot.
Yes.
We're not a union in any shape or form. When you think of the reasoning that you join a union, can we help with some of those reasonings? Yes, we can. Mm-hmm. Can we give you a place to land some of the problems and help fight on your behalf? Yes, we can. So as a governing body, we can make headway with some of those things that you need support, protection from, and help to get to. We can help with all of those. Those are many positive things that a union can, but we're not a union, and we won't ever go down that road. Should there be one? Ooh, that's a question I think I'll leave to the audience, really.
Agree. Okay, next one coming in, so we've got quite a few to get through. Hi, Jackie. Thank you for organising today's session. That's a pleasure. Today, with experience, are you thinking of guiding or mandating CPD requirements to promote skills and experience?
At the moment, CPD requirements are mandated for membership of organisations, not for being an instructor. Mm-hmm. Now, I have an experiential issue with CPD being mandated around organisations that pay to have their names put on a list of CPD, and that good CPD outside of that is not recognised. Because I have one foot in the health sector, because for those of you that don't know, my background is I'm a clinical exercise physiologist, so I come from a different registration scheme. My CPD is for me to evidence, and I put a case history together of what I've done for my CPD. And that involves what's more meaningful for me in my current job role. So CPD, we want to look at within the scope of widening the practice. So where does CPD sit? What should it look like? But we want to move away from only recognising CPD where somebody has paid for that CPD to be recognised. If people have CPD that they want recognised, for me, it would be on an obvious basis, you know, where it's come through channels where we know validation exists. So it could be a training provider who is validated in other ways. Then why would we not recognise it? It could be reading that you've done on certain things that you've applied yourself to your, you know, the higher you go up, the more knowledge you have on analysis, the more you can apply. So we want to widen it, and that will be part of this project to have a look at that, Jackie. I don't know how that sits with you and what you feel about that. And I've been quite controversial in what I've said there.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is where, part of the groups that we're pulling together with the Voice of Group X, with the studio coordinators and other things, is going to provide you with the opportunity to come in and have those conversations and talk with us. That's the most important thing. We want everyone involved in that conversation. We are representing you. So next one is from Donna. Hi, Donna, up there on the Highland, up in the Scotland Isle somewhere. Is usually funding is for classes in England. Can we get funding support in Scotland and other areas in the UK? Can EMD UK look to work with Sport Scotland? We need a voice too, please.
Yes, exactly that. And you'll be pleased to know those conversations are now happening. We've just joined the Welsh organisations, and we will be doing the same in Scotland. And also to let you know that Sport England are also having the conversations with their counterparts in the home countries. Now, just to let you know as well, that any resource we provide, we will also make available to you in the home countries. So whilst your mandates might be different, if you have different resources, we can still generate those for you, and we would want you to. So we're going to support you as instructors in exactly the same way whilst we have those conversations in the home countries. And we've been approached by the home countries since we've made some of these changes to say, could we bring some of those changes over for you? So the good thing in that is your home countries are interested in the conversation and willing to have the conversation, and we're delighted to be able to do so.
Okay, so next one. Is this an alternative to Cummings-Bell membership?
It is absolutely an alternative to any membership. We are the governing body for group exercise, and professional recognition it is gained through us. As you have the choice of joining whichever organisation you want, this absolutely will be a choice. And Sue, in her new role, where employers are requesting that you join one organisation or another organisation, Sue is happy to have those conversations with you about how we validate and do our checks. One of the things about joining a professional association is making sure that employers are comfortable with the fact that they can employ somebody who has membership in an organisation, knowing that that membership has been checked. I want to be very clear, in our pro membership it is. And we will be enabling much more within that, as I said, in terms of the wider scope of practice. So it absolutely becomes a choice of where you can join.
Great. I'm going to keep rushing through these, Jill, because we've still got quite a few to get through, if that's okay. Does the pro insured membership cover special populations, exercise referral and cancer cardiac rehab?
Yes, it does. And it also does in our insured level as well, because you can get insurance as a specialist for all of those areas within our insurance as well. So absolutely. And as I said, the resource centre is going to grow and grow and grow.
Absolutely.
So we literally launched it, what's it now, 8 weeks probably?
Yeah,
since we launched
just before Elevate, I think it was, we launched it.
And we've got 200 or 300 different channels of resource in there. We want it to be meaningful. We want it to be good resource. And we are commissioning resource from good delivery partners. So again, if you've got particular things amongst special populations that you'd like to recommend as an approach, we can approach people to commission some additional resources in there as well.
This is more of a statement rather than a question here. If you want any formal input into scope practice, I would be very keen to join a focus group. It's such a mess at the moment, and the Cummings-Bell, although trying to address this, are not offering enough clarity. Yes, agree with the scope of practice stuff coming on. There'll definitely be the possibility of getting some focus groups together to get input from everybody else as well.
Yes.
So thank you. I teach over 55 community classes. Any idea on how I can get funding to help more people join, as I can't afford to lower our prices? I think, Arlene, if you want to contact me direct, I'll put you directly into contact with those who are doing the funding for us. We can pick that up offline. So if you want to email me direct, that would be great. I'm sue@emduk.org. So that one's answered. Sue's meetings, where will they be held, please? Adriana will send out information. If you again want to contact me direct, I will be sending you all details of all those meetings out to everybody, so everyone can be involved if they want to. But the details just need to be refined and will be out later on this month. I just funded MGBs involved in the project. I'm assuming this is the governance project.
Yes, in the governance project, it is all the sports governing bodies, of which there are 57. As to whether anybody else can be, that would be a CIMSPA question. Mm-hmm. They're leading on the project, and if you are a body that's not involved in it but would like to be, I'm sure it's a conversation you could have with CIMSPA.
Yeah, agree. Rebecca Robinson, I would like to know how we can be supported in promoting ourselves, being recognised as an excellent and cost-effective resource for physical and mental health and well-being through the NHS social prescribing scheme. Absolutely, Rebecca.
And this is the sort of conversation you can be having with Ajay. So
yes.
Ajay's, as I said, a new role to support those conversations right from the word go. So he's already having those conversations. So again, if you want to be put in touch with Ajay about his long-term plans, then do get in touch with Ajay. And again, Sue can give you Ajay's email address and have that conversation about that wider influence into those hard to reach groups.
This next question, the anonymous one, goes back to pay bands, and it's something we have put on the consultation, is should the bands not also depend on which part of the country you live in? And that is actually within Gill's consultation paper, is although it's stating our bands and what we believe in, is we have stated that it will depend on what area you live in, because of areas of social deprivation might be different base prices of cost for an instructor and stuff. So that's what the consultation's for. That's the sort of input we need put back with constructive feedback. So as Gill requested earlier, if you can pop that into the consultation and feedback, that would be great. But we will be looking at that, and it will be down to diverse ranges of different areas of the country. Will there be a way of getting new methods outside of the UK registered as education providers?
Yes, and that's one of my issues. So if I take a Pilates, if I look at Pilates, we have everything from mat Pilates through to fully comprehensive. Now, we have various associations who look after Pilates, and we're not in any shape or form trying to replace them. In our view, if you're already recognised by an association that has standing, we will also recognise you. As I said to you, if you're already recognised by the Yoga Alliance and want to join us, and you did your qualification with them and it's accepted by them, who are we to say that qualification is not accepted by us? Because actually it's been accepted by a validated body. So the Pilates world is a little bit like that as well. So where nobody has a home. So for us, we will be recognising providers of good Pilates comprehensive training. And we'll be working with people on the lists of providers nationally and internationally who provide that, because that is, again, I mean, there are some things that have always kind of amused me in our sector. One is we're the only sector in the country I know of where you're a graduate and you're told to go back and get a level 2 to work. For me, why we don't have some kind of graduate program that allows you to cross over is unusual, because every other profession would do so. Also, that you transport a certificate from somewhere else and you can't get registered here, yet you've worked for 20 years somewhere else with great evidence that you have. We want to try and break down those barriers and enable them and put our sensible heads on and go, what can we do with this? And it might mean that in some instances we have to look at a case individually, but that's okay. You know, there'll be standard criteria that people can tick and people will be able to meet it and do it. And then there'll be people who go, I don't quite meet that, can you have a look at it? But we have a team, and our team are very capable of looking at it. So absolutely, we are on board with that.
One, I'm going to just jump beneath the next question just quickly in case people are leaving, is has EMD been able to engage with any of the large commercial operators regarding pay? This conversation started a long time ago, even before Gill came to work with us, is we had some focus groups with Les Mills, with the operators about pay. And yes, that is part of my role now. I want to be having conversations with operators, not just around pay. I want to know what the struggles are for studio coordinators, studio operators, how we can support. This is about supporting the whole of Group X, leading from the community instructors to those working in operators, and to help the studio coordinators, managers and operators themselves. So those are the conversations that we will be having going forward. So yes, we have been and will continue to have those conversations. So Marilyn came up with, are the rates based on freelancers only?
No, they're employed rates, because many freelancers work across many clubs, where in some clubs they may be PAYE'd, even though they are their own micro business working across a number of clubs. So it's more about the recognition of this is the amount the employer should pay for that class. And you'll see, as I said, a list of other things, making employers aware that these are the other things that teachers might have to pay out for. And if we can't raise the pay, can we support by taking on board some of these other costs, and lots of things around that. So it is a work in progress. And as I said, we want to publish it each year, but landing a pay band for the first time ever in our sector
is significant.
Been quite a significant step for us.
Yeah,
a little bit nervous about when it goes out there, you know, but let it be a starting point and a starting point on those negotiations, and it can work for either party, employed or self-employed.
Okay, great. Sarah Price has a question here. All these projects that are very good. However, as a self-employed exercising teacher, the bottom line is Josephine Public doesn't actually care. I think that's more of a statement, more than a question. So I don't think we need to answer that. Or
well,
have you got any input?
Yeah, I don't disagree. You know, I've never had a member of my class in any time I've been teaching ask me for anything. They like me. They like me as a teacher, but it doesn't stop my effort to strive to make my own improvements. And again, that's a personal decision. It doesn't mean that you have to go down that route. Who knows when the project finishes, whether it will need to or not? I don't know the answer to that. And that's why we're having that conversation, because should it come that we have to register, then we want you to be in a good place to do so. Should it land that you don't have to, then life carries on as normal. Will
your review look at instructors who do not work for a leisure centre but are either self-employed or work for such organisations such as the NHS?
Yes.
Perfect. Will you be including info on MS? I teach Pilates and trigger point Pilates, currently been seeing a gentleman for 18 months on a weekly one-to-one basis. Good point. We'll pop some of these notes down. Again, we're just trying to make it as much. If you need content for it, we'll look at content that we can devise for that, Susie.
Yeah, and it is part of the new long-term conditions standards.
Yeah.
So the new long-term condition standards that have been published includes MS. So there should be absolutely no reason that we don't grow to put some resources in for that as well.
Yeah, as you'll all understand, is we've started from scratch and built these resources, so it's going to be a phased input as we go with this, but we are working towards them. So, John, in your question, you've got in your membership £49. Does that include really decent insurance? I already use holistic insurance. It's about £69 a year, so even joining you could remove that cost. Is that right? We can pop you into contact with our, we'll pop you in contact with our membership team. So John, again, if you want to email me, I'll pop you direct to our membership team and get you through to them so they can discuss what your needs are and whether we can meet. Well, of course we can meet them.
But yes, it does. It's full insurance with Howdens for professional liability, public liability, professional indemnity. And also if you've got equipment and studios and that sort of thing, you can have that conversation and add that to your membership as well.
Yeah. Are you looking working with Les Mills on governance around required qualifications to teach Les Mills classes? Currently, anyone can do a 2-day course with no fitness qualification and go and teach the public the next day. My company require level 2 cert as a minimum. However, not all gyms do require this. To me, this is scary that someone is able to teach but not have any knowledge of anatomy or people in class who may have injuries or medical conditions. Thanks, Jenny.
Yes, agree, Jenny. And we are looking at several programmes where scope of practice is around that particular bit that they do the training on, Zumba, Les Mills, Bokwa, whatever they are. And we're looking at how we underpin that as a resource to make sure that it doesn't stand alone. So we're not there for it standing alone. We're there for it meeting the requirements that keep the environment safe. But we're looking at ways that we can support that rather than disable it. So yes, absolutely. It's one of our key focuses in the scope of practice work.
Great. Thank you. I think we're down to the last three, so we're getting there. So Marie Clifford is, most gyms want SIMSPA and won't let you cover or teach without it. Can you change this?
Those are exactly the conversations that Sue is going to go out to different employers and is already having those meetings to make them aware of what we do and where those choices sit, and also the kind of NHS scenario I've just given you. Sue is out and about having those conversations. If you've got an employer that you think you'd like Sue to contact, then feel free to let Sue know. If you are an employer and you'd like her to come in and explain to you in more detail the benefits that we could bring through our membership to employees, then Sue is super excited to get out there and have those conversations.
So final two questions. You cannot establish a profession without going through a genuine process of professionalisation. You acknowledge that there have been several prior attempts to professionalise, but have all have failed. How and why is this iteration different? I think a good point to bring in here, Gill, as well, is why this is coming is off the back of the white report that went out.
Yes.
And if any of you aren't aware, but the white report was due to some concerns and issues with safeguarding around British gymnastics. So this whole process is also coming off the back of this as well. So this is why that need has been pushed forward now for this project to take place.
Yeah, and I think you're right to ask the question as well. And I would say the difference is this time that it's coming from a national level. Mm-hmm. It's coming across all sport and physical activity professions. So it's not our profession trying to do it. It's come from a national level. And basically, when you get into some of the detail of the last 18 months, not so much this phase of the project, and do some reading through those reports and that link, what you'll recognise is where there has been risk and poor practice, and also coaches feeling undervalued and not supported at a national level, we've gone, that's enough, that can't go on like that. And therefore, from a national scheme, funding has been put behind this project to change that scenario. But that first has to be piloted. The way the pilot, I believe, is going to work, and this may change as all projects do as they take a life of their own, is about 7 to 9 governing bodies will be involved in the actual piloting to see what that might look like. And then out of that will come some kind of report to the national scheme, and then from then we'll obviously have some kind of initiative that comes out of that.
Great. And finally, Sarah, I think it's more of a statement rather than anything else, is Helen's put another one, is being an alternative to SINS but only adds another layer of confusion. And I think that's what we're trying to, it does, if you're an individual, an instructor and not understanding, I said, but what we're trying to do is make it very clear, is we know our scope is to represent all group exercise instructors. So if your priority is group exercise, then it's a simple thing, but it's a choice, isn't it? You're going to have a choice. If you sit on the line and you're doing PT and group X, it's a choice of where you lay your hat. Mm.
And I don't disagree, and it's a comment that's been levelled at me several times in the last few months, is about causing confusion. What I would say is that we're not confused. EMD UK have a very clear remit. We know exactly who our workforce is. Anybody who teaches exercise in a group funded to work on your behalf. Now, where does the confusion come in? The confusion comes in quite rightly on who should join where or whatever. And the only scenario I can give you on that is going back to my example of, if you're a physiotherapist working in a hospital, you'll be a member of the CSP, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapists. If you're a consultant, you'll be a member of the General Medical Council. Different associations can work for different groups. It's recognising what group you belong to and where is the best fit for you. Now, there'll be many of you, as I know in this sector, who cross groups. I know for myself, I teach one-to-one Pilates, I teach group Pilates. Where do I want my membership to sit? It is really a personal choice as to where do I feel I will get the best benefit from my membership. Now, as an employer, where confusion can sit is, do I really want my staff being members of more than one organisation? But that, again, for me, isn't confusion. That is a decision that we make. Is it right for you to have all your members joining one area? Then that's a choice that is there to make. But if you feel there would be benefit for your staff presenting to you a professional recognition from their body, then that is also a choice. And that's where we would like to get to with this.
So thank you to everyone for coming and joining us today. Thank you to Gill for coming on and going through all the points that we want to cover. And hopefully the Group X workforce, whichever area you come from, can see that we're doing our best to support you. And it's looking very bright for us. I think there's a lot of things that we can do to help support you. And we're your ears, so you are aware. There you go. SL's put that in the background. Membership packages that are built around you are ready for you. So if you have any questions, what I suggest you do is you either message Gill or myself. So it's, I think, Gill, you're just Gill@emduk.org, and I'm Sue@emduk.org, and we'll be happy to carry on the conversation. Gill, do you have any final closing comments?
Just to say thank you to everybody, and also just remember that change isn't easy and change isn't always for everybody. We're not legislating, we're not forcing, and we are just making ourselves available to enable.